Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gabriel with another Fan TV back at you another video. At the content of the video, go smash that like button at the content of this channel. Go ahead and subscribe, man. Look, the Ravens released their game status report for today. We're gonna talk about it. Obviously, there's a numerous amount of injuries to talk about for the Baltimore Ravens and what it can mean going forward for this team. But first, very sad news in the Ravens community, man. Arthur Jones, former Baltimore Ravens player, drafted by the Ravens and actually in the fifth round of 2010 draft. Passed away today, only 39 years old. Played with the Ravens for 4 seasons. Was an impactful player on the defensive line that ended up winning the Super Bowl in 2012, right? So, I mean, only being 39 years old, not even getting to reach 40 years old, still very, very young. So sad news for sure, praying for his family. It's tough, especially, you guys as a Ravens fan, watch somebody that, you grew up watching, you know what I'm saying? Like 2010, 2013. I remember Arthur Jones on all those Ravens teams, right? So very sad news, right? But prayers to his family, and definitely gone too soon. All right. So with the Ravens injury report for today, I'll just go through it, give the DNPs, well, not the DNPs, but get the status, and just get my thoughts on it, right? We'll go just do it simply as that, right? So like I said, Ravens have a long list of injuries right now. All right. Now the people that are on this list that have no injury designation, that means they're going to play, right? So we got Travis Jones, Tyler Linderbaum, great news there. Brent Urban, Kyle Van Noy, and we got Nate Wiggins. All right, so Nate Wiggins left the field in a cart versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Ends up being DNP on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and then Friday full participant. So he's going to play. Right, that's great news. Maybe it just ended up being a bone bruise or something like that for Nate Wiggins. It looked like he maybe could have even broke his arm. You know what I mean? So glad that's not the case. All right, now questionable guys. Kyle Hamilton, Patrick. Oh, sorry, not Patrick Card. Adafe Ronnie Stanley, Devontae Walker. There's so many names on this list. It's hard to keep track of the lines. I mean, honestly. So if I look at the questionable list, the guys that I would say I probably had the best chance of playing, Devontae Walker is a full participant in practice, so I would say he's going to play. Ronnie Stanley's been limited the last 2 days of practice, so I would say he's going to play as well. And then two guys that's not going to play that I see as questionable. Kyle Hamilton went from limited to DNP back-to-back days. I think the Ravens are going to be without Kyle Hamilton on Sunday. And then Adafe went from limited on Thursday to DNP today. So he's truly a 50-50 up in the air. I wouldn't be surprised if he did not play. Now, for the Ravens that have been officially listed as out, Chidobe Awuzie, Lamar Jackson, Marlon Humphrey, Emory Jones Jr., who came back to practice after being on IR. All right, you got Roquan Smith, Pat Ricard. So those guys have all been listed as officially out. All right. So let's just talk about what we're seeing so far. Okay. So Lamar Jackson been listed as out. I talked about this in my last video that the best course for the Ravens going forward right now, especially with Lamar Jackson dealing with a hamstring injury, and he hasn't looked right when he tries to take off, run, explosiveness, anything like that. It hasn't looked right over the last couple of weeks, right? So, let him sit out this week. Let him sit out next week because it doesn't make sense for him to come sit out this week and play next week off a hamstring injury that wouldn't be fully healed yet. So I would say Lamar Jackson misses the next 2 games, which would be the Texans and the Rams. Then the Ravens have the bye week. And then I expect Lamar Jackson to be back playing versus the Chicago Bears. I believe that'll be week 8, right? So that's the next time I expect to see Lamar Jackson is week 8 for the Baltimore Ravens. I think that's the best path for him. I think that's the best path for this team going forward. The worst thing that they could do is rushing back out there, and then he ends up doing something worse than a hamstring injury. And now we're talking about shutting down for the whole year. That could lead into the future, right? We don't want anything like that for Lamar Jackson, right? So keep it safe. This is the franchise right here. Don't do anything crazy about that, all right? Marlon Humphrey and Roquan Smith, we already knew those guys were going to be out. We knew that probably pretty much top of the week that, they've already been ruled out for pretty much a month, right? They're going to be out for a month. Pat Ricard's injury situation is one of the weirder things of this offseason, just because, the Ravens, John Harbaugh thought he's only going to be out maybe week 1. That was it. And then they was hopeful to have him back. And now we're going into week 5, and there seems to be no end in sight for when Patrick Ricard is going to return. but they don't want to put him on IR because he's close enough to where they don't want to send him out for the whole 4 weeks if they put him on IR. It's a very strange situation, right? So Pat Ricard, we don't really know what's going on. It's calf injury. That's all. That's all we got. Information is that's all we have. I mean, obviously the Ravens know what's happening, closer than that. But as far as the outside view, that's all we have. Calf injury. That's it. And the Ravens, I do believe, missed Pat Ricard some in the run game. But I thought that Mitchell Payton played well. The Ravens have another young fullback on the roster, Lucas Scott as well. That I don't think they're going to give any playing time to this year, but somebody for the future, right? I mean, if Patrick Ricard, it's thoughts of have we seen the last of Patrick Ricard in the Ravens uniform? You know what I mean? They keep giving the 1 year contracts, things like that, right? And then on top of that, you have an injury that's keeping you out for this 5 weeks so far, and we don't know when this injury is going to end, right? So unless we get more information from the Ravens, it's all speculation, honestly. Chidobe Awuzie being out, that sucks, honestly, just because the Ravens are already pretty thin at cornerback. But it's great that Nate Wiggins is going to play. So Nate Wiggins, TJ Tampa, big week. Jair Alexander is ramping up, I should say, as well. So we may see some Jair Alexander this weekend. The Ravens are going to need to pull it together at the cornerback spot because a lot of guys are hurt, right? So they're going to need to pull it together and really try to figure that out there. And then really the biggest one, like I said, this guy is questionable, but Kyle Hamilton, right? Not saying the back end of Ravens defense hasn't played very well. The whole defense as a whole has not played well. So, it's not just one player or one position group. But the Ravens would be out without Kyle Hamilton. That leaves the biggest question of all right now is who's going to wear the green dot, who's going to call in the plays, who's going to get everybody set, right? You would think that the transition would be from Roquan to Kyle Hamilton. Then if he was healthy, like a Marlon Humphrey, because he's a veteran on the defense, all three of those guys, well, Roquan and Marlon are definitely out. Kyle Hamilton may be out, like he's trending towards that direction. So there's been talk that Teddy Buchanan has been wearing it. It might not be him. It could be Malachi Starks. Who knows, right? Now, it's not the biggest thing in the world, right? Who's going to wear the green dot? Who's going to call the plays? But it is a conversation point, right? Who's going to get in the play calls? Who's going to get everybody lined up? Who's going to have everybody set and ready to go? You're already a defense that has communication issues. You're already a defense that's struggling to play well. Now you got a new person communicating the calls. We can see a whole kind of, blown coverages and blown assignments on Sunday, if I'm being quite honest with you. So that is something to look out for, just being perfectly honest with you, right? It's not something that we always think about, but when vocal leaders of one side of the ball are out, it's something to definitely to consider, right? So for the Ravens, I was looking at this game as a possibility. Can the Ravens win this game? Can they steal this game, go 1-1? Because I don't think they're going to beat the Rams regardless. And go 1-1 in these next two games, go 2-4 into the bye week. I'm not feeling super confident in that. Now the Ravens still have a plethora of weapons on offense, obviously, but that's gonna be Cooper Rush under the center, right? So it's not gonna be Lamar Jackson, not by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, so Cooper Rush hasn't shown me anything from preseason training camp to be excited about, to say he's a competent backup quarterback. Only reason he's known as a competent backup quarterback is because he's been a backup quarterback in the league for a number of years. That's really it, right? It's not because of sustained play on the field. All right. If I'm being completely honest. So what Cooper Rush can give the Ravens the most is don't turn the ball over, be smart, take what's there. And, a big thing that happened this week was John Harbaugh really laying into Todd Monken about his play calling, and Todd Monken responded and saying that, John Harbaugh gives him constant feedback during the game back and forth, which is very different from what John Harbaugh said. It makes it seem like he doesn't have any hand in the play calling. So that's a little interesting back and forth right there. But I expect to see that the Ravens will lean on Derrick Henry, lean on play action, and lean on maybe a more of a screen game as well. So these are things that are going to help Cooper Rush, who is obviously not your starting quarterback, hopefully help him make him feel more comfortable in the game, because that's the biggest thing. Can they get him to feel comfortable and make the plays that are there to be made? All right, we don't need Cooper Rush doing anything that even closely resembles trying to be a hero. Right, just make the plays that are there. This Texas offense hasn't been very good. The Texas defensive line hasn't been very good. Sorry, the Texas offensive line. The Texas defensive line is very good. The Texas offensive line has not been very good, but neither has the Ravens defensive line. So, we'll see what happens there. But As far as this game, the Ravens are going in there with a lot of injuries. I'll talk about it some more when I do the game preview tomorrow and get my thoughts on the game and what my keys to the game are and things like that. I gave you a couple already, but go into it more detail tomorrow. But that's my thoughts for now. Give me your thoughts in the comments. It's Gabriel from Fan TV. I'm out.